Hello, guys, and welcome back to Ears to the East. We're doing something a little bit different this time. I'm about to grill Howard. Well, grill being the optimal word here. There's a lot
This is going to be interesting.
This is going to be interesting. So DADADAMS, we've had an absolutely amazing day. I mean, you probably were in the know, probably a little bit before all of us, but you were thinking of one surprise, but it turned out we got two surprises.
So for anyone who doesn't know, by the way, because I don't know what the distribution of people is on this channel, I get the feeling this topic's probably going to touch on a couple of other things as well while we go through this and trying to work out precedent. But DADADAMS is the group. They're a local Japanese idol group. They do like kind of rock music, but across the things, really interesting. This is the group who I've been promoting. So you probably have seen vicariously, or maybe through my channel, that I've been really pushing this group. So there was a big announcement today. Do you want to say what it was?
Yeah, you got two new members. I tell you what, it turns me on when you go for like full-on promoter. Yeah. The face just comes on and he's like, yes, like full-on promotion. Yeah. This is the band promotion. He goes all serious. I'm like,
it's really weird because I've talked to people about this on the channel, and I was on like Loon's podcast the other day, and he was like talking about like, well, where's your history?
That, by the way, that was a great.
Thank you.
Episode. That was a great episode. A great chat.
He was asked me one question, and I literally gave him 30 minutes. I looked at it later. My answer to his one question was 30 minutes. I gave him my life story. It's like that is what happens when you put me on a podcast, and people say I talk too much. It's probably true. But yeah, so when I do like the promoter thing, it's really weird because in a weird way, although I never say that I'm a promoter, it really does connect me to a lot of the stuff that I've done professionally with music. I really feel like I'm sort of back in that zone again. So yeah, it is true. Like even when I'm talking, it's like, that feeling comes down. It's like, let's go.
Let's go. All right. So talk us through this, because obviously we've had the big DADADAMS day between your Discord, my Discord, and a few other reaction channels. This was the band as far as we were aware, and then like literally, like has it been like a week, not even 2 weeks later, we got two new members. How was that happened? I imagine this is to do more with the label than obviously the band themselves. It feels like that. Like kind of what's the how's this just suddenly just come about?
I'm going to be honest. This did partially catch me a bit by surprise. But this is kind of really cool. There's a lot of cool things about how this happened. So first,
you know one of the girls as well, don't you? Or acquainted with one of them.
Yeah. So this has also led to there's a couple of other things that are going to come from this, because this has created this has rippled a lot. So I knew that there was an intention to expand, but I did not know it was coming suddenly, and I did not know it was coming like this. And because I've been so focused on doing the DADADA Day thing, I'd missed a really obvious sign that I should have noticed, which is basically Trash Up Records, who run DADADAMS. They have a couple of artists. Probably the one they've had the longest, which has been quite well known, is Sakasama. But I think of recent, although DADADAMS is a much more recent addition in recent years, they've kind of, I feel almost like they've taken on that mantle of being the top artist. And there was another one called Ines, and Ines broke up recently, and I actually did not clock that. I didn't realize that they were wrapping things up, because this was when I was really focused on DADADA Day. And they'd always kind of like the third seed, I think, group on the label.
Yeah.
But of course, one thing that's quite well known with idol labels, which is primarily what Trash Up is they have a habit of cannibalizing their own groups. So I don't know what caused Ines to break up. But upon doing that, they grabbed one of the members, Kuru, who's now being brought in. And now my understanding is that Kuru is from Ines. I don't know about the other girl, Kimmy. I'm sure she's from the same camp, but I don't actually recognize her. And I'm thinking I must have seen her at a live show somewhere. If she's with Trash Up, then I must have seen her before, but I don't recognize her immediately, which is kind of making me think. So I'm actually a little bit in the blue about that. And I'm waiting for someone to go, oh, she's this person, so I recognize her. But I immediately, Kuru's got a really recognizable face. So the minute I saw her, I was like, wait a minute, I know you. Hold up. So it was kind of it was very intriguing, but I didn't know who it was going to be, and I didn't know, as you pointed out earlier, I did not know there was going to be 2 members announced. And the reason for that, interesting fact, they posted the announcement in Japanese, and Japanese as a language does not have plurals, not in the normal sense. So what they said was new member will be announced, but that could be singular or plural. There's probably people who are better with Japanese who might have seen some sign that I didn't see, but I could not see any sign that said it was going to be plural. And I had big concerns as well. Like there's been a member who's recently missed a couple of shows, and I was concerned about, please tell me that one of them hasn't fallen out or something. And I was like, I don't know enough about this announcement. So a lot of this caught me by surprise. But yeah, it's rather interesting. It does happen. But the big, for me, so one thing I'll add before I'll let you ask the next question, I swear, I'm not going to just talk for half an hour, I promise. But one of the big things that really got me about this is that, okay, so they announced 2 members, and at the same time, they also confirmed that the member who's been on hiatus for a good few months is still a member. I was like, hold up, this now means there's 8 of them. And so we went from, when I first started covering them, there was 4 of them. I was told to wait until 1 member went on hiatus and 2 joined. Then there was 5, and they were like, okay, now it's time that we're ready to do publicity. So I jumped in on that. Then the hiatus member, she is staying until, and my biggest thing is that they play small live houses. How the fuck are you going to find a big enough stage? Anyone who hasn't seen it, if you check out, there's a DADADAMS live video on the internet. It's one of the first ones that comes up.
Yeah, we'll link it in the description so you guys can watch.
Good point. I got to remember to do that. Now, if you skip to about 9 minutes and 40 seconds through, in one of my favorite songs, Nonsense Warp, Uzu, the longest standing member, she quietly falls off the edge of the stage and no one notices. And she does the greatest thing, getting herself back up and just sort of acting like nothing happened, pulls a little pose and gets straight into the dance. I was like, that is a fucking pro move.
You can't put a good hamster down.
Well, that was Uzu the hamster. There was only 5 of them at that point, and they were already filling up a stage. And I know that venue; it's a pretty normal sized venue. So I don't know. But another thing, obviously, idol groups, they function, especially when they're young, like members who they have other things like university and stuff. They sometimes have to bring members in and bring members out. So there is a possibility that they might never actually be functioning with all 8 on stage, except for very rare events. So this does change the dynamic. It moves them away from kind of like the Bish formula, slightly more towards an idol formula. Where I can imagine members being present and members not being present, which is something that, again, I had some indication of, but it wasn't exactly what I'd expected. I hadn't been told that wasn't going to happen, but I knew they wanted to expand. But I was surprised how aggressively we've effectively, we've gone from 4 to 8 in a very quick time. So I am actually in the process of asking them, should I be expecting more? But I think,
surely not. That's going into the realms of stupid. Although, to be fair, there's a lot of Japanese groups that do go into the realms of stupid. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, just in general, like massive bands and stuff. Because I have my opinion on that, and I'll tell you after yours. But I want to hear what you think of it.
Okay. I mean, I think there might be a sort of a certain romanticism from when I was younger and what I'm used to seeing as a girl band or a boy band. Not that I would say they're particularly great, but you kind of like have an established thing. I think 3 members is a very different thing. Like Perfume is not really, it's a very different thing. 4 members, I think, is small, but very, the thing I like about 4-member groups is the same thing I like about 3-member bands. And that is like, okay, that is small, but there's something very tight and efficient about it. And I like that. I like groups who are tight and efficient. 5, I think, is kind of like the normal number. You expect 5 in a boy band or girl band. Now, what obviously the natural thing you can imagine, we're going to start talking about things like AKB and these much bigger groups and the Sakura Gakuins. Now, I've never been into that kind of thing. I've never been into groups with graduations and stuff, but I do accept that there is a certain business model sense to it. It's just my problem with that is they become so big that no individual member feels important. Each member feels, I mean, it feels like they could perform their song. You take one member out and you wouldn't hear a difference. And for me, that's the thing. If you could take out a member and you would not hear the difference, that's when you've got too many, which is another reason why I think 5 is about a perfect number. Now, in regards to this, like I say, they are compensating, I think, partly for the fact there's always going to be times when a member has got like a university like exam or something to study for.
Life, just general life as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
But I think what kind of came to my mind very weirdly is that there are actually a lot of K-pop groups, which is, you know, I mean, it's not the comparison, it's not the appropriate comparison, but it is a comparison of what people will accept. K-pop groups tend to be pretty big. You know, they tend to be 6 or 7 members. I mean, you don't get many 5 members. I'm racking my brains, but I mean, like, how many members have Twice got? Twice got like 7 or 8 members, I think, haven't they?
It is extortion. I couldn't ever tell you. Well, this is what I was going to lead into my thing. I couldn't ever tell you the exact number of most bands that go into like 7, 8, 9 people because
let's fucking find out.
Yeah,
I'm going to find out right now.
Because my concentration for members, when the band gets too big, sort of drifts off. People always have that one personal favorite, I think, from like large groups, but then I feel like the rest of the band sort of like is like in the background, shadow, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I like you said, like 5 to me is perfect, or 4 or 3 because
Twice apparently has 9 members. No, sorry. The reason I just want to quickly add that, because we agree on the basic point, is because with Twice, and this is partly because the number of very pleasant music videos they have, but I'm pretty sure that I couldn't name them, but I'm pretty sure I could tell them apart by face. I'm pretty sure I could register the existence of 9 members of Twice. And you know, but most of the time, I think there's actually one member, the Taiwanese girl. And yes, I'm calling her Taiwanese. Fuck you, China. I think the Taiwanese lass, I believe she's actually put down as just like her role is image. I think I've read this somewhere where she's just there to look good and dance. So there are some very weird. I might be wrong with that, but there are some very weird roles that come up with these groups. So, you know, and I don't want it to be like that. And when I did the DADADAMS interview, each member had a distinct role. And what I'm kind of glad about is Kuru from Ines, she is different. She's very different. I don't know about the other girl, Kimmy, but Kuru is very different. So I think she will add something very unique. What this is going to add to the sound is much harder for me to say. But as a group who do have quite rocking, kind of like, I almost sort of said the other day, they've almost got like a beer hall like quality where, you know, they're doing this rock music, but it feels like, you know, it feels like you could just burst into a can. I know it's cross culture, but can. Yeah, it just feel like everyone could jump and sing along together. So in a way, having lots of them is not a bad thing. You know, I mean, there's the sort of group who, you know, I was talking about weird old 90s songs the other day, and it just suddenly hit me. I can imagine them doing like a cover of Tub Thumping. I can imagine that. I can imagine. It's like I will just talk about the whiskey drinks and the lager drinks, and then you lot just shout at the same time. It's like, that's the sort of thing that they could do, but they do also have a melodic quality that I want to come across. So it's
fair enough.
I will be, just so everyone knows, I will be finding out a lot more from the record company soon, and we are talking about getting into the recording studio, which is now going to be more expensive because there's more of them. Thanks. And the music video is going to change plans slightly because there's more of them. But ultimately, you know, I am finding out a lot, but it's interesting. I think it could still, well, it will still work, but I think it could be done in a very good way, and I believe they will do it that way.
Like I said, I don't know how much I can poke and pry, but how are the current girls finding it? Have you been able to speak to them and stuff? Because that's going to be a bit of a shock to find out. Hey, we've gone from, like I said, from 4 to 8 in quick succession, or 5 to 8, depending on whether or not you want to look if the hiatus members are there or not.
I think you raise a very interesting point, but I'm glad to say that actually I don't think this would be a problem at all. And one of the reasons I say this, I mean, a lot of people probably didn't spot this, but if you look at the interview I did with DADADAMS, which hopefully you'll have, when Anne's being interviewed, they were interesting. They were all in their street clothes when I did that because of the fact that Mepo had forgotten her outfit, so they all had to go street clothes for that show, and then it was right after the show that we did the interview. Actually between 2 shows. But anyway, so Anne is wearing a Sakasama t-shirt, which is, like I said, one of the other groups, not the one that broke up, but one of the other groups from the label. And it really kind of is worth pointing out that like, so they go around, they gig a lot. So most of these groups are doing 3 or 4 shows a week. A lot of the venues they play at are owned or run by a certain group of companies, you know, like the Loft, a lot of the Loft venues are run by the same companies.
Yeah.
And they got lots in Tokyo and Yokohama. And so as a result, there's a lot of, you know, crossing over. Obviously, they're run by the same company. So they're a lot of the time they're doing shows at the same venues, which means that a lot of the girls on the record labels are good friends.
Yeah.
Which means that or at least they're sort of regularly around each other. And they hang out at the shows, as you see as well in photographs. So I have no doubt that they were aware of Kuru's joining and probably were also introduced to Kimi long in advance. I don't think they're making their debut until a show which is going to be on the 26th and just over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not like they've just suddenly started learning for 2 weeks. They would have had time to learn these songs. I mean, they'd have heard these songs because they'd have been at shows would have been being played, but they'd have time to learn the dance and the singing. So I get the feeling that they've been around this for a while, but because of the volatile nature of working with younger people, I wonder if it's just like, you know, they probably had started this process, but they didn't announce it till now, because now is when they were like, okay, yeah, this is definitely working. So I think I think there's probably always like a pull out clause in there right until the point where like, yeah, this is working. But I just wanted to quickly mention, sorry, I just one thing I will add as an addendum to that, and let you know, is that Enos, when they broke up, one of the members is the member who came up to me at a recent show. And I was just standing there, usual thing, all the idol girls walking around doing the meet and greet. And then one girl just walks up to me and bam, in fluent English, just breaks into talking to me. I'm like, whoa, holy shit, what's going on here? I'm like, okay, give me a moment. Turns out that obviously she's Japanese, but she was born in Seattle and grew up in Seattle. And so her first language is actually English. So Japanese is her second language. And she was just really chatty. And I spoke to her online. And I was like, okay, because Enos has broken up. I was like, what are you gonna do something next? And she's like, I have got projects I'm working on. So I asked her to stay in contact. And it is my hope that maybe at some point, depending on contractual things, and you know, obviously she's quite young, so there's a lot of other things to consider. But she might be someone who one day we get her on one of our Ears to the East.
Ooh, nice. I like that.
I said that in a really creepy way.
You did. I hope
really
she's not watching this.
I was more sort of insinuating how Ears to the East is very posh. Now I realized I just came across as like some creepy guy who's inviting girls into chat. I apologize from the bottom of my heart for my weird face. Anyway, any more questions?
yeah. So all right. So again, you said this has been working. But you would assume, again, we're going off guess. I'm going off guesswork here a little bit, but you would assume, like you said, that this has probably been in the oven for a fair while. I mean, 2 weeks from now is not a particularly long time to debut girls that need to do the songs, the dances, need to know where their place is in the band. So you know this has been in the background for probably quite a while. And like you said, they didn't really kind of give you the hint that anything was kind of happening, or if they were hinting, you were being like, I am my streams and just like not paying attention to this. It should
be pointed out that my position at the current moment, I started off obviously asking to the interview, and it went through, and I have from that perspective said, well, look, okay, we're building a community thing. Well, we got a community and we want to follow you. So as a result, we started offering extra services. So our relationship to the record company is a partnership with no defined beginning, end, or particular details to it. So they have absolutely no requirement to tell me anything.
Oh, this is what I was going to go into. So I was literally going to say, so you didn't know, but do you reckon obviously you'll know in the future for other things, do you reckon? Or do you reckon they'll be a little bit more transparent? Or are you just gonna walk into the studio for like choreo practice one day and there's gonna be 12 of them and you're gonna be like, where the fuck did the young people come from?
Well, I have invited myself. Who the fuck are you? The truth be known, you're
on a need to know basis.
I think actually I do think that's actually a very good description. I think the thing that I think that DADADADAMS actually also delayed the announcement. I suspect they wanted to announce it earlier, but they delayed it because of DADADADAMS, especially when I said there was a part 2. I think that's why, because I mean, let's face it, part 2 came out and then they did not leave it long, like 3 days afterwards. So I think they probably wanted to announce it earlier, but they wanted to let all the videos come out first of all. And then I don't want to put her in it, but Anne made a comment that really like raised my eyebrows. I was like, you know, not being funny, it was like, I've been around long enough. When I read her tweet, I was like, that's something about your tweet is suspicious. Actually, I'll tell you what it is. So when I posted the part 2, she posted a thing, and this might seem really obscure, but when you've been around this kind of stuff, like she posted a reply going, wow, I'd only been in the group for like a month when I recorded this. I was like, wait a minute. Like do you know, like when there's certain things where if you work in a certain job, you know how to, like, you read things that you're like, I'm not paranoid, I know what that means. It's like,
is this the same terms of like when a girl tells you that everything's fine, you know instantly that it's not fine?
Well, every girl I met, I thought told me that things were really fine, and she just had to leave because her grandma was ill. And now you tell me this. But it's just like, so not to put Anna in it, but yeah, just like when I read that, I was like, you are cementing yourself. Like that's something you do when a new member's there's a significant change happening. I was like, you've cemented yourself. I was like, I should expect something. And so, you know, that I could have read that wrong, but just I had a voice in my head, and
this is I'm new here, I'm not leaving, kind of thing.
I don't even think it was so much that. I mean, maybe it is that's the bit that's harder to read, because it's harder to read. It's easy to read what the comment suggests that I'm cementing myself here, but it's harder to read whether that was done more from a need to like do that for safety's sake. I think it's more just a case of so that she could be a welcoming voice when the new groups come. Yeah, because we have to see her as an established member so that she can welcome the new members.
All right. Well, like I said, let's turn this around then, and let's go to the part that probably, which is the least nicest part of any business or any model or any band.
Good.
And obviously you got down and dirty. I hope not. I really hope not, because I've fallen in love with all the girls in the last couple of days for DADADAMS and all the videos and stuff. But with the influx of members, you've got to imagine. I know you said everybody might welcome it and stuff like that, but do you reckon, again, it's okay if the girls welcome it, but the label has the first and last word pretty much on everything. Do you expect maybe any departures, like if they turn around and say, oh, it's too much of this isn't working, like
we are getting down and dirty?
Like is that a realistic fear?
Not because of that reason. So okay, let's put it this way. That's a very good question. So basically, the nature of the record company and the nature of being an idol in this position. I mean, let's face it, like I said, idols, they can take shows off, they're and the record company is small. And as I say, I work with them specifically. One of the big reasons why I've taken this as far as I have is because the record company is not like a lot of other companies, especially small companies, independent companies, and even in Japan, they're very different. I really do believe that there's a good feeling of everyone seems to be happy. Everyone seems to be on good terms. I believe that there's good communication. I believe this is obviously I'm sure the people in charge, they can crack the whip when they need to, and I'm sure, but I don't think there's any, I don't think there's anything pushy about it, because anyone could walk away at any time they wanted to. And, you know, it's not like there's a lack of idle projects to join out there if you want to.
Also true.
So my question is, first of all, well, my approach to that question is that there's two sides to that. First of all, do the girls feel anything about it? We'll never know. But my inkling is that from speaking to them in interviews, I think they feel, I don't think that any one of them is pushing to be like noticed so much as they want to be in a successful project. I get the feeling that they all like being in a project, and you can tell, like, so in the second part of the interview, I asked them each about what's the hardest thing about being an idol. And Mashi, who's actually, she looks so cute and young, she's actually been doing this for 7 years now. And she gave a fantastic answer where she was talking about how, you know, it is you want to be exceptional, you want to be the person who, I guess, gives people escapism from their lives. So you can't carry your day-to-day problems on stage. But at the same time, obviously, there's this heavily insinuated thing that there are day-to-day things. So I think in a way,
that's a great answer, by the way.
Yeah, it was. I was brilliant. I thought it was fantastic. And you mentioned when we were doing an interview, which I don't think it was been posted yet, but we did a discussion with Reactor Matt, and you mentioned about the in that interview, you mentioned about like how you know, being an idol is also a job as well. So I think that in a way, the job aspect is easier when there's a little bit, there's more people there to back you up, and you can make those, you can fall off stage and no one notices and stuff like that. So, you know, I think there is that positive aspect, but I don't know how much of that it really encompasses. So, yeah, there is a possibility that some of the girls might feel a little bit encroached upon, you know.
Yeah. Which is only human at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't want to mention names, but I'm sure you can see with different personalities, there might be certain personalities who might feel more comfortable in a smaller group, and certain personalities who might feel more comfortable in a large group. I think you can work that out, but I don't think we know what they're actually thinking. Now, the other side of that is obviously, will members leave? Again, I don't think for that reason it's possible, but I don't think so. But because of the same chaotic thing that caused ENS to break up without me really noticing, that causes you know, people to have to take time off, there is always the possibility. And I've said, it's my feeling that if a member left DADADAMS because they just didn't feel like they could be in a group, or they didn't feel they had time or anything like that, depending on how I feel about it, certainly if it was someone who I just really, I get their vibe.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to mention names, but some people probably know. Yeah. Anyway, if there was a certain member who I really get their vibe, then I would immediately contact Trash Up, and I'd say, look, if they don't have time, let me do a studio project with them. There's a band I'm talking to at the moment who, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a Japanese band locally who I am working on a project with at the moment. Don't know if that will even come to fruition, but that would be really cool. So there's things that I could give these girls to do if they found themselves in a position where they just didn't want to do idol stuff, so I could just keep them doing music. So I am definitely going to keep an eye, especially on the core 5 members, because obviously we're kind of following their journey now. But hopefully the other 2 members will become like a part of the family. I'm hoping that she returns as well at some point, you know, so that the stage becomes entirely impossible for everyone to stand on. So, yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this, but I do trust the record company. I do trust, although I'm here to help them with the online side, I hope they allow me to continue to do that, because I think that's where they're at their weakest. When it comes to just running a group, I do genuinely believe that they are the right people to do the job, and I think they're a safe pair of hands. And so yeah, I think that they're doing this wisely, and I don't imagine anyone's going to leave upset without a good conversation.
Oh, that's good. I'd like to know what you guys in the comments think of the new additions as well. Like, let me know your thoughts. We've been talking obviously about smaller group, a bigger group. Or are you just interested to see the new girls settle in and how they, you know, develop the group, and maybe have some opinions in a month or two? We're going to end on a little bit more of a positive note. I'm going to put a little bit of positive spin.
I think it's positive. By the way, I do think this is positive note. I think it's interesting because there's a little bit of the air of the unknown, but it's all part of the journey.
Yeah,
I really believe this is part of the journey. I had someone contacting me. I really thought this was so sweet, but I had one of the people in my community contacted me directly and said, Howard, if you're not happy with this, I'll cancel my DADADAMS merch order. I was like, oh, no! That's really sweet. I was like, that's like such a genuinely really nice thing to say. And I was like, I said to him, I was like, honestly, I don't know how this is going to go, but it's part of the journey. And, you know, what's a journey without a little bit of intrigue and drama along the way? So I still feel very positive about this. I love the group. I love the music. I love the idea. And I can't wait to work with them more, which I'm sure we will.
Well, I was going to say that was the question I was going to end up on. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Where do you think your collaboration with the band begins, or maybe ends, or where do you hope you see it kind of tunneling in the future?
So this is kind of an update of the question you asked me about this before, really. I would say, again, I'm going to do that thing that I did before, which is that I'm going to be realistically short-sighted and hopefully long-sighted, in that I know why I dream of them being, and I know what I want to do with them. But in realistic terms, I know this is a chaotic industry, and I know how often there's people you can really believe in who there can be issues, disagreements, problems can come up. especially when we're in kind of like the commercial side. As I keep on saying, we are making no profit from this project, and Trash Up know this. We're doing this completely as a charity thing because we want to make this journey a combined thing. But you know, we still don't know what's going to happen in the future. I would say though that, yeah, obviously there are some net negatives in the, obviously if I want to take them into the studio, this makes it a fuck ton harder. And it's like, you know, it's like, I'm going to have to say to them as well, it's like, look, okay, one, are you adding more members? Two, if we go into the studio, is she going to be involved, or is she on hiatus for the recording? Because if I record a fucking album, put it out, and then she rejoins, I'm going to be like, for God's sake. So, you know, I mean, so it's like, I need to know if we're bringing her back. But, you know, this is, again, they don't owe me anything, but if we're doing this, then I believe, and, you know, every project we've done with them so far, they've been incredibly open. So I'm sure if we get into the studio, they will be open. I do believe that 110%. And if we do a music video, they've all got to be involved as well. But obviously those two projects become more complex when there's a large number of people involved. So there's a lot of things here still to be discussed. But ultimately, I think it's going to be really interesting because the pure number of them is going to add for some really interesting dynamics. And I think 7 is, you know, at the time they announced it, I was really happy, but there was a voice in my head that was like, it's too many. And then when I saw the message, I was like, 8. Oh yeah, 8. It's actually 8. So that's way too many. But then just when I was checking with you and I looked at it twice and they got 9 members and I don't, you know, so long as we can sonically make it work, I don't really actually think it's a problem. I mean, if we get over 10, then you're probably going to have me going, I think I need to. But I think 8 is not actually that bad, so long as it's really reflected in the sound. And I think it can be. I think they picked really well with Kuru, and I can't wait to hear Kimmy's voice. But yeah, I think it can be reflected in the sound. So
the long-term hope is we'll get a DADADAMS 2 next year then, and DADADAMS Day 2. You got to do it so a music video drops on that day, by the way, not having any release.
I did actually really believe that, well, to believe it. One of the things in my head is I can't help but feel that July the 30th every year should be DADADA Day.
Exactly.
So I'm kind of like, I'm thinking about that. And by the way, actually, one thing I'm planning to work on, I don't have this cemented yet, but if they push too far back on doing a music video, I am actually going to make an animated music video myself.
Ooh.
Just to fuck around with them and go, So that is something that I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? Dangling it in front of them. Speed up. But yeah, no, they're lovely. But I think the only thing where we are in slight, not odds, but the only area where there's the sort of the butting heads is that I am the one who's really, I'm pushing them with the online stuff, where I get the feeling they're kind of accepting it. I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, but we gotta go. So but there hasn't been any problem. It's just they're busy. They're a small company. They're running so many live shows. They've got multiple artists. They can't be spending all their time dealing with me, especially considering what I'm offering them is not as profitable as live shows anyway. I'm kind of offering them the dreamer's view as much as I believe in it. So yeah, I you know, again, there is nothing but good blood and love between us, but yeah, this is definitely a bit of a journey where I'm like, oh, okay, shit's changed. So I'm going to be playing my own little tricks. I'm working on an animated music video, which I hope gets made, and a bunch of other cool little ideas. So we're going to keep on their trail, and the DADADA journey is going to be going as long as we can keep it going. And I have no idea what the future brings, as has been so clearly demonstrated today.
Nice. Well, like you said, if you made it this far into the video, we're talking about it. It's really nice to see this from Howard. It's really nice in both sets because obviously I met you through the channel, and now you're getting back into doing the music side of the business and stuff like that. And I'm really rooting for you, which is really, really cool. But if you want to help Howard, the links will be in the description down below. You can go and follow the DADADAMS channel, Twitter. Go and follow the girls. Go and buy some merch as well. Help support not only the girls, the band, but also Mr. Howard as well, showing that his promotional skills are working.
And a big love to everyone who's been listening. I haven't seen the figures for Apple Music, but I mean, I have seen the figures for Spotify. And a big love. Their viewing figures have shot up, really shot up. And so, you know, a lot of love and respect to you guys for doing that. Just, you know, put them on. If you got a Spotify playlist, put them on your playlist. Pick a good song. Like Doppel's a great song, Balloon's a great song. Put both of them on there. They got the live thing as well, but obviously that's a bit different. But put one of the singles on your playlist, enjoy it, and just every time it goes around your playlist, not only are you going to enjoy a song, but it actually helps keep the stats up, which helps push this project forwards. Those stats remain high. We remain in good stead because we're the online army.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have any more questions or anything for Mr. Howard, let me know in the comments down below as well. Mr. Howard will go around and answer them all as well. If there's anything else you want to ask him that we've missed, is that okay? Are you happy to do that? Oh, yeah, he didn't even hear me. He's back. He's back. I was going to say, leave the comments down below for any questions you want to ask Mr. Howard about the band or anything. I'm sure you'd be more than happy to answer them, won't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. So there's a bit of interaction there as well. And we just want to say thank you again, guys, for supporting it as well. Thank you for supporting Mr. Howard. And remember to keep your ears to
the east.
Whichever way it is. I still don't know. All right. Take care, guys.
Take care.